Jai Shri Krishna. As you know, this is Janmashtami celebrations going on all over, and we've been doing it last couple of days right here in our area. And last night we celebrated the birthday of Lord Krishna or Shri Krishna ji. I I know Aditya ji does not like us to say Lord anymore. You know, it should be always Shri Krishna. I think the House of Lords in England have gave a different meaning to Lord now. So that's why we should not be even using that word. तो
भगवान
हम कहते हैं बांके बिहारी लाल की जय, तो हमेशा हमारे लिए तो वो बिहारी जी हैं और हम बांके हैं। तो बहुत ही धूमधाम के साथ हम मनाते हैं क्योंकि हमारे मंदिर का जन्मदिन 1983 में सेम डे हुआ था, जन्माष्टमी के दिन, और इसलिए हमारा डबल सेलिब्रेशन होता है। ये हमारे मंदिर का भी होता है जन्मदिन और भगवान कृष्ण जी का भी होता है, तो बहुत धूमधाम से मनाते हैं। और इन रेलेवेंस टू पॉलिटिक्स, जिसमें कि हम राजनीति बोलते हैं हमारी लैंग्वेज में, और महाभारत में जो राजनीति सिखाते हैं, दैट इज अनपैरेलल, you know, because if you understand that what exactly happened, why the whole yudh or the war had to happen, dharma, adharma, and who are on the side of dharma, and why it's so important to have that as the basis of any politics, no matter where it is. I think it's very, very important that we keep that in mind, because other than that, you can really go astray. You will not have any direction. You will not have any mission. You will have no objectives, no goals. And only if you are dharmic, if you understand why you're doing it, to for defending dharma itself or being dharmic, you're always going to be on the right path. You're going to be on the righteousness, truthfulness on that side, and you can never go wrong, because only then Shri Krishna ji is going to be with you, because otherwise you'll definitely be on the other side. You'll always be on the side of dharma and truthfulness. So you're going to lose in the long run. So if you want to win in the long run, you have to keep that in our mind. Some of us have been very, very fortunate. You know, I'm not, just I give my own little example to prove the point. I may not be a great reader, learning medicine all along, and then be concentrating on many of these to keep up with that. It's sometimes very difficult to read up everything else in Dharma. But the way we grew up, right from the beginning, our parents, like my mother, used to go to the temple almost every week, go to Gurdwara every week. And my father was Arya Smaji. He has to have the Havan every week. And, they had different ways to teach us, educate us about Dharma, but everything. So when you are not, you set on one thing, and your mind is open and you want to learn everything all around you, I think you imbibe a lot better things. And that is the way I learned, and that has stuck with me all along. And even when we opened the temple, we had no problem when people said, why Sai Baba is here, so why Ganesh is here, so why Jagannath ji is here, all these areas, why Kali Mata and not Durga Mata and not this. So I said, even if you bring a piece of stone, I said, you put it here, 300 people are followers, we will put it right there. So it's a matter of, everybody coming together, everybody not only just socializing, but also learning spirituality, our religion, our faith, and grow together, learn all the philosophies and ideology, which we are very, very proud of. And that is why we named it as Fremont Hindu Temple and Cultural Center. So the very important. And in my philosophy, Hinduism is a culture, it's a civilization. And that's the reason in political arena, we don't have to feel shy about it. I think to bring Hinduism into political arena, into politics, into American politics, we are very, very comfortable. that calling ourselves Hindus as American Hindus. Aditya ji has already explained about the difference between Indian Americans and American Hindus. Today, you have noticed when Kamala Harris has joined, many of these groups don't even want to call Indian Americans, call her any Indian American anymore. They want to not, they're gonna say that African and Asian American, you know, some of those, and some of them calling her South American, somebody calling her Asian American now, and of course, in addition to the Black American. So basically, everybody's trying to take the little piece of the pie. But if you are saying that because her mother was a Hindu and she was a Tamilian, and she basically, at the age of 7, the parents separated, you know, Harris and Shyamla, her name was Shyamla Gopalan, and she has a sister whose name is Maya Gopalan, who has been the campaign manager also. So basically, we could have called her, you know, she was a Hindu, and of course, the father Baptist, and so it doesn't matter. You can't only talk about the geography. I mean, she was born in America. That way, she's totally American, born right here in Oakland, just like our kids say. So the roots are important, but the roots, in what sense? Roots should be what your religion is, what your traditions have been, and what your philosophy has been, what your ideology has been. I think that is the most important thing, and because that gets carried, it becomes part of your DNA, and if you start practicing it, it really becomes part of your soul. So I think that is the way we believe in it, and that's why we are going to try to bring in American politics the people who are going to be dharmic. We have been hurt and disappointed by people like Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, Amy Bera, Bobby Jindal, many of these people who even did not want to help India. They openly forget about staying neutral. They are hurting India. Even some of the things, whether it's 370, whether it's a CAA, whether it's a triple talaq, whether it's Ayodhya, and they're basically going against everything in the name of so-called humanity, in the name of so-called secularism, in the name of so-called minorities appeasing the vote bank, because of those reasons, or for their own selfish achievements they want to have, for selfishness, basically, they are putting the Hinduism under the bus, saying reject Hindutva, and then trying to align with some of the forces which are really, really evil forces. And in Mahabharata, we call them adharmis, adharma forces, because those are the terrorists, the radical terrorists, whether they are Islamic radical terrorists or the communist radical terrorists, which the Chinese Communist Party has become part of, and it has been part of that in the past. So we want to make sure we counter those forces, and you can only counter those forces by bringing dharmic people into politics. And that's why this year we have put people like Ritesh Tandon, who has been very, very dharmic, has worked with us, and we know that his education and the growing up has been that way. Same with Nisha Sharma. As a matter of fact, last night in our celebration, she was singing bhajans with her husband out there beautifully for 3 hours continuously. They were singing great bhajans in the praise of Shri Krishna, and it was a wonderful, with the whole orchestra. We had about 10 people on the orchestra along with these bhajans and songs, and it was an amazing scene and the experience created by her. So these are the kind of people we want to bring in. Manga Anantamula, again, a great Hindu, though some people think you're just too aggressive, but it doesn't matter. You know, in Mahabharata, we had to have all kinds of people to win the war. It was not only Jira that, you know, who can be making the peace, loving or peacemaker, but we needed Arjuna, who could finally take care of everybody and kill all the armies. So I think we want to make sure that we have all kinds of people who are going to be on the table in Washington, D.C., in Capitol, and also in the White House, we'll have positions. Some of our dharmic people should be appointed and then should be part of the running the show, administration, and not just protesting from outside. So that's the reason this year we took upon ourselves to align with the Republicans because their philosophies of familialism, we call it with the familyism, and truthfulness, righteousness, nonviolence, peace, and prosperity and happiness, which should be at the core of everything. And with those ideology only, I think we can make this whole country, the whole America, a lot more prosperous and well run. And now with the Ayodhya, with the Ram Mandir starting, Ram Rajya, which we very, very familiar with. Again, our religion is teaching us a lot more what was good in Ram Rajya, how everybody was treated equally, and how everybody was so happy, and nobody was complaining about anything. And all these riots and narcissists and looters and all these people who are right now creating havoc in America and all over the world, in many parts of the world, including India. I think this has to be stopped. And the only way you can stop is when you have some kind of philosophy, which is our real Hindu philosophy, which should be followed. And it's going to take some time. Right now, some of us who follow very well should get into it first, try to educate the congressmen and senators and president, vice president, everybody else, so that they can all align with this kind of philosophy and make the whole world happier. So, I don't want to go too much into the depth of our dharmas and philosophies and what Bhagavad Gita, I think Adityaji will go into that a little bit. But from practical point of view, I'm always an action-oriented person. I call myself as a karma yogi, keep doing the karmas right from 1983. It's 37 years. Putting the temple together. I've still been serving as a chairman for 37 years. I don't think there's anybody in the whole United States of America who's been the chairman of one temple for 37 years. I've tried to find that, unless, of course, the pujaris have their own temples. I'm sure they probably could be. And then we were able to socially and culturally empower our communities, through Festival of India. I've had 150,000 people come together in the parade, celebrating India Day parade. By the way, this Saturday, we'll be hoisting the flags, even though everything is closed, but we'll be doing it in the parking lot of the temple, where our Consul General Ambassador Nagendra Prasad will come and hoist the flag. And we'll have some of the celebrities from back home join us, on the call on the 15th of August at 7 p.m. on the Zoom video conference, so that wishing everybody India's Independence Day, because we are very, very proud of the largest democracy. So it's a celebration of democracy, just like our 4th of July. And now the 5th of August has become relevant, and many other days are becoming more and more relevant, where we can bring everybody together at the same level, bring them along towards from poverty to prosperity, without any classes or jat or other things. I think it's very important that we forget those things, and there should be only two classes: poor and the privileged, or the prosperous. But everybody should start moving towards prosperity and from poverty, and it should not be because somebody is a backward class or this class. I think there should be, everybody should be brought up to that level. That is the way we believe in. And same thing can happen in America. All the people who are underprivileged, who need the help, they should be brought up to that level so that everybody can be prosperous. And then only the peace will come. The prosperity and peace goes together, rather than trying to divide people in different classes and different sections. That's not the one, and I think once we understand that, the BLM movement, everything else, and all the and everything will stop. I think then people will start working towards real prosperity and happiness. So I'll stop right there, because, like I said, that our religion, our festivals, our traditions, what we do, our experiences. That's why I wanted to relate everybody to their own experiences. Everybody goes through it in their families, and that's what we're going to bring into the politics here. Not because we want to be so and so, we want to be rich, or we want to take some money or bribery, we want to be corrupt, which most of the politicians do back home and here. I think the time for change has come, and this change should be for the long run, not for the short term. Dhanyavad. Back to you, Aditya ji.
Thank you so much, and so relevant. I think Dr. Japra ji, you are the most qualified person to speak on Bhagavad Gita and Karma Yoga, and we all pray to Krishna that you also get the title from India as a Padma Shri, because it is very much is late and delayed, and we want Dr. Japra ji to be recognized, especially by the American Hindu community also, because 40 years is a very long period. Some of us, or I think all of us, or some of us were not even born during that time. And so it's a remarkable service and selfless service. It takes a lot to run a center in North America. And the way you started with the church, and I came to the entire history, is simply remarkable. Great inspiration, and for everyone, to all of us here. And also this, actually this show is also live on Facebook. So some of you, if you'd like to invite people to Facebook to watch on A4H Talks, there's a group over there and people can watch over there too. Now moving to a very exalted speaker and a writer of 2 books, and also a trustee of Americans for Hindus. And it is Dr. Japra's vision that such a diverse set of trustees we have got, and it's just growing. The movement has just started, Americans for Hindus. And since we are not shy of speaking about our culture, Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken to kings. So this particular author, Dr. Shri Sharad Mohanji, is an entrepreneur, he's an industrialist, he was at very key positions at high levels in IT industry. And also he has written 2 books, Kashmir, the Bermuda Triangle of India, and also the history, the ancient history of India, he wrote on that. And he is also writing on 3rd book is coming back, a very prominent topic shortly coming online. And so I would like to request him to take stage and tell us about, and he's a very keen observer of international politics. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Sharad Mohanji.
Namaskar, Aditya ji. Thank you, Dr. Japra, for a very good speech. Welcome to the new member, Rohit Joshi ji. Subrato Gangopadhyay ji, thanks for joining. I know Manish Pandey, Krishna Gudipati, Paresh, most of the people I know I have met and talked. And for others who have not met, welcome to this show. So yesterday, Aditya ji reached out to me to speak something on the relevance of Gita in USA politics. And I thought, who better than Dr. Japra or Subrato Gangopadhyay ji, because they have seen a longer tenure of the life here. And Bhagavad Gita is nothing but all karma yoga. And these are karma yogis of our modern time, of our community, who have proven with their hard work and skill. So among these great people and the leaders of the community, I will try to quickly go through a written speech which I prepared this morning, so that I cover most of the things which people would like to hear. And since it is recorded, this could be used to educate kids also. Again, this is based on the very short time I got. So to get started, the topic of today is relevance of Gita in USA politics. So Dharma is the orienting principle that connects the spiritual and political lessons of the Bhagavad Gita. As a foundational Indian concept, Dharma is at the root of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, which are collectively referred to as a dharmic tradition. As a Sanskrit word, Dharma has no real equivalent term in English, and the Dharma means different things to different people in different contexts. within the context of Bhagavad Gita, dharma signifies righteous conduct. And a lot of people, there are many spiritual side of it, but some of the people take it as a righteous conduct. One of the great Indian great leader, Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, he was especially attracted to the verses of Bhagavad Gita, extolling the virtues of Karma Yoga, the path of right action. From him, one of the central and recurring teachings of Bhagavad Gita was to act righteously in the present moment without regards to any future rewards. And we all have heard since our childhood the famous shaloka from the chapter 2, verse 47 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karm phal hetu bhur matve sangostava akarmani. So what does this mean? This means is you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of the action. Now, a lot of people get confused with this, but let's understand the deeper meaning of it. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. This is very, a simple explanation of this shaloka. There would be a lot more meaning to it. In Gita, Krishna, the cosmic self, is a friend, a philosopher, and a guide to his beloved disciple Arjun, representing the confused, questioning, and the finite self of inquisitive humanity. When Krishna revealed his transcendental wisdom and the cosmic self, the finite self of Arjuna absolutely surrendered with all wonder, adoration. As a political figure, Mahatma Gandhi interpreted this verse to mean that one should not be motivated by the desire for personal reward, but instead should aspire to act righteously for the benefit of others. For Gandhi, righteous action is not only the spirituality transformative for individual, but also politically liberating for the nation. And Gandhi believed that the righteous action for its own sake represented the essence of dharma in Bhagavad Gita. And there were other great, like our own Rabindranath Tagore, the Rashtrakavi of India. Even his Gitanjali was very much influenced by Gita. A lot of ideas were from Gita. Now coming back to US, when Tulsi Gabbard took her oath on Bhagavad Gita, it showed that the Gita's political wisdom was not only instructive for her as a Hindu, but also for all the members of the Congress. Increasingly, Americans believe that their representatives are more interested in short-term personal victories than long-term political solutions. And this has led to a record low approval rating for the Congress. In an age where billions of dollars are spent on campaigns that never seem to end, Gandhi's commentary on Bhagavad Gita offers politicians a powerful alternative to act righteously, decisively, and courageously without regard to a personal or electoral gain, and to recognize the real political reward in the righteous action. Now, let's coming to the real situation in America prevailing right now. We all have seen Black Lives Matter and the various related violence which both pro and against this racial movement, the so-called racial movement, explains the rise of anti-establishment movement. What the hell is going on? To know really what the hell is going on. But at the basic descriptive landscape is becoming increasingly clear. Voters are exhausted, angry as they face a new series of crises. Many voters, nevertheless, remain optimistic about the future. A recent poll shows viewing this movement as a chance for progress, one they can help shape. I'm trying to also give you a very good analogy, which has been highly discussed in American politics. Mr. Samuel Huntington, one of the famous names in the American politics, a think tank, When we were in school, we used to read a lot about his clash of civilization and all those things. But I will bring that analogy in my discussion here. So nearly 6 months after the first case of coronavirus reached United States, a majority of the registered voters say they are anxious, exhausted, and angry, according to a poll by New York Times and the Siena College. Yet, even as they brace themselves for months of challenges from the virus, many remain optimistic about the country's future, viewing this moment of pandemic, economic devastation, social unrest as an opportunity for progress, one they can help shape. The mood of the country has really been so enmeshed in the country's politics. Nearly every 4 years, politicians try to energize supporters by describing the presidential election as the most important of their lifetime. For once, voters may actually agree. But this time, I think we all agree because of the extraordinary situation which the Wuhan virus brought to us. The shift in the national mood has been swift and striking. After years of economic growth, only 1/3 of the poll respondents, and again, I'm quoting from the New York Times poll, which just happened, give the economy a positive marks. The virus has become so far-reaching that nearly 1 in 5 say they know someone who has died of it, including 1/3 of African Americans who have been disproportionately affected by the virus. 57% of the registered voters believe the worst of the pandemic is yet to come. The economic and the health impact has fallen disproportionately on the voters of color. On the 1/3 of the Black voters and 21% of the Hispanics say they know someone who has died from the coronavirus, compared to only 16% of the white voters. Again, these are the statistics given by NYT. Again, these are from NYT, and they are notoriously famous to build a narrative rather than factual reporting. But then truth will be something in the middle. Many Republicans are angry too. Hopefully that the country will, and they hope that the country will rebound within a year, that they have a different perspective than Democrats. Republicans largely believe the president's claim that the virus is fading away and that skyrocketing cases are a result of increased testing. More than 3/4 of the Democrats think the worst is yet to come, right? So this is the situation where the country is right now heading. Majorities or near majorities in the 6 key swing states like Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin feel slightly more anxiety about the recovery, largely facing higher unemployment rates than much of the rest of the country. Registered voters say in those states that the economy will take a long time to recover once the virus is gone. Still, only about 1/3 of those voters support protest against coronavirus-related restriction. Now, why I'm bringing all this? With this apologetic outburst of raging disillusion does feel like a new force in American politics. It's actually an old one. It is nothing new. So people who are a student of history of politics, they will now correlate with what I'm trying to say. This is a recurring phenomena. It's just that we haven't experienced this fully in a decade. Samuel Huntington, one of the think tank of the American politician, in his calendar, he places the first period of American creedal passion. Again, what is creedal? Creedal is a biblical word which means a burden that people believe that they bear if the policy is enacted. So creedal passion in 1770, the time of American Revolution and the revolt against the crown. The next period came in 1830s when Jacksonian democracy led a revolt against the bank, right? There were a huge revolt. Then again in 1900, when Roosevelt and Progressive led a revolt against the interest of the system. Then again in 1960, when activists revolted against the military-industrial complex. This calendar anticipates another period of creedal passion in 2020. So every 60 years, America faces this situation, which we are seeing with the corona and partisan politics between Democrats and the Republican, virtually splitting this country. I am quoting this pattern from Samuel Huntington's 1981 book, American Politics, Promise of Disharmony. So many years have passed. This classic still is relevant, the most compelling big picture explanation of our current enraged political spirit. It's a goosebump prophetic in its prediction that around the same time, we would be entering a period of creedal passion. And he has even given 2020 as a date. Huntington's term for moralizing the distrust of the organized power that grips America every 60 years. The core of this argument is that we are a nation found on ideals. Again, this is for America. The problem is that these ideals can never be fully realized. This creates some obvious tensions in terms of American beliefs. Government is supposed to be egalitarian, participatory, open, non-coercive, and responsive to the demands of the individuals and groups. Yet no government can be all these things, still it can remain a government. In other words, at the heart of American politics is an unresolved paradox. Power is illegitimate. But how can a government function without a power? So either government is illegitimate because it is doing things, asserting power, or it's useless because it's not doing things. The American people believe that the government ought not to do things, it must do it in order to be a government. And or the dominant political creed constitutes a standing challenge to the power of the government and the legitimacy of the political institutions. Political authority is vulnerable in America as in nowhere else. So why I am bringing this? So generally, they do not occur during the times of war or during the economic crisis, but they are more likely to occur during the period of rapid social and economic change, when established relationships among groups are disrupted. In the history of most societies, rapid economic, social change enhances the role of ideology in politics. So given this situation, how Bhagavad Gita will be relevant? Each day upon walking, we have a choice. Who will we decide to listen to today? Our true and higher self, our ego, who? The day we decide to listen to the true self are usually the one where we feel as though we are living our purpose and abiding in our true nature. The day we decide to listen to the ego, and usually the ones where we face the most difficulty, the life can seem to be like a battlefield. Bhagavad Gita is one of the ancient Indian texts derived from the epic poem Mahabharata. Throughout the history, this still stands as the longest poem to have been written with over 100k shlokas and 200k verses. Texts like Upanishads, Dharmapadas, Agamas are also part of the epic poem, but it is Bhagavad Gita which is often cited as one that holds the key to personal transformation. What's the relevance and symbolism of Gita in American politics? The whole story of Bhagavad Gita takes place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, upon which two sides of a same Kuru family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, are preparing for the battle, right? Or were preparing for the battle. The text itself positioned around the conversation between two characters, Krishna and Arjuna. Like many other writings in this period, Bhagavad Gita, which actually means the song of the gods, seems somewhat timeless. In fact, that's relevant whether we lived 1,000 years ago or we are living in the modern age here in the United States. We explore what happens when Arjuna has to make life-changing, difficult decisions, especially the decision as to whether he should battle against his own family members in a war of good versus evil, and the importance of living of a life of truth and purpose. The most interesting and often misunderstood aspect of Gita is that it entirely represents and it's entirely representational and highly symbolic. There is no real battlefield or fight to be won. The entire text of representation of the battle that goes on in our minds is an invaluable way to understand how we can overcome the difficulty, self-doubt, and ultimately how to live a life of truth and purpose. Whether you are an ancient yogi or a modern day practitioner of politics, this text speaks to anyone who ever feels as though their mind is a battlefield. In order to get the most from the text, it is important to understand what each character represents. God, Bhagwan Krishna, the higher self or divine. Arjun, he is in our human form with all our doubts, worries, habits. He represents you and I. And as we stand on the battlefield of life, facing all the different parts of ourselves that prevents us from realizing our true nature. The Pandavas, they represent the great virtues within us. Kauravas, they represent the strong opposite force within us. So they are all part of us. The chariot of Krishna, it represents our physical body. The horses used in that chariot, they represent our five senses that needs to be skillfully guided and controlled by the self in order for us to be able to realize our true nature. So there was a gentleman, Simon Haas, who tried to have his own version of Gita, where he says, well, young graduates are regularly encouraged to find their passion and then to pursue their dreams. This advice, which is regularly dished out at the graduation ceremonies here in America, is actually misguided. Most successful young people don't look inside and then plan a life. They don't take an inward journey and come out having a discovered, a developed self, ready to meet challenges of the world. No living allows them to find themselves. By confronting challenges in life, by finding a problem that summons their energies, they discover what they are capable of. In other words, our potential, our purpose manifests not through a process of cognition, but through our vital engagement. Now, whether we might, so whatever we might consider our life purpose to be, there's one purpose. We all have to live life fully and to explore all there is to explore within ourselves. Life can often seem like a battlefield, but it's also spoken as a dharma in many texts. And when we look at it this way, we can ask ourselves, am I playing my part fully? Are we each giving ourselves to our life and our world and living our purpose, living our life purposefully? The Bhagavad Gita encourages us to live life with purity, strength, discipline, honesty, kindness, and integrity in order to find our purpose and to live fully. Just as Krishna encourages Arjuna to cast aside all the doubts, trust in his highest self, we too can use the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita to meet our own difficulties and decisions with fearlessness, honesty, learn to live life authentically and fully. For all the politicians waiting for November 2020 outcome, think about this new chapter in your lives. Ask yourself, what is my purpose in life? It is deep question that if you can recognize now that your purpose is to serve God and God's children, practicing karma yoga, then you can lead a truly successful life. success is not defined by temporary material things or accomplishment, but a deeply successful and happy life centered around the service of the people they will represent after November. Jai, Jai Yogeshwar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharatji. That's a wonderful and excellent light of Gyan from our Bhagavad Gita, not only for regular people like us, but also to the future American Hindu political power in USA, how to be in their life while they conduct the activities in the public, as well as for the personal life, which is all about our Bhagavad Gita is. That is a great insight, and hope they guided by the Krishna's light and they continue to win and so that our land can be dharmic. Now I would like to introduce Sri Aditya Satsangiji. Aditya Satsangiji was started initially as a Hare Krishna monk. He wanted to go into the dharmic life, but then slowly, because of such certain situations, he also became very successful in the tech entrepreneur world, also guided by Sri Krishna, Hare Krishna in a chant all the time, forever running, even during the highs and lows of any tech entrepreneur life that anyone would think of. And now after now that we've seen the radical Islamic forces, communist forces all taking over America, Aditya Satsangiji has started a new a paradigm now, and along with Dr. Chopra ji, Sharad ji, and other trustees here, to create American Hindu political power with. And Aditya ji is the president, Adhyaksha of this American for Hindus political forum. So Aditya ji, please guide us. How you do this with Krishna in your heart and mind, guided by him, at the same time helping create American Hindu political power in USA.
Thank you, Krishna Gudipati ji, for such kind words, and it means a lot coming from you. You are also a practitioner. But one thing we must say, today we have a lot of political action committees, but we are the only political action committee talking today on Bhagavad Gita, on this Janmashtami. And that goes the credit to all our trustees and chairmen. And so where we are actually trying to talk or bring Bhagavad Gita in American politics, and we are discussing the relevance of Bhagavad Gita in American politics. First of all, Bhagavad Gita is a book, and I also would like to thank Dr. Japra and Sharad Mohanji putting wonderful points. I was listening very attentively while inviting other people to this talk. And so in Bhagavad Gita is relevant for the entire humanity. It is not a book only for Hindus. It is a book for everyone. In Bhagavad Gita, the topics are very simple. It's based on soul, Paramatma, Prakriti, time, and karma. Extremely important. And if all of you were listening to Dr. Japra's talk, Dr. Japra had mentioned the word karma yogi, and which means that somebody is working like a regular person in life, like everyone has to earn money. They're working hard. We have very successful doctors here, cardiologists here. They work very hard in their professions. At the same time, they don't lose the focus on their own self, their own Atman, and which is their own spirit soul, which is connected to Krishna. So they, while doing that, and they are engaging in regular jobs, so they are creating huge temples, they are creating huge communities, they are inspiring a lot of people. In Bay Area, you have 150,000 people inspired by Dr. Japra. And when we run Sathology course, we have more than 60,000 students listening to us every week. So while we are just doing like any other person, The same thing we're going to do in politics. We're going to be hugely successful because we keep Krishna in the center. We are not losing track of Bhagavad Gita. We are not losing track of Mahabharata, Ramayana. We are doing just like regular pack does. At the same time, our consciousness is different. Our consciousness is that we are trying to please Hari. Samsiddhi Haritoshanam. So with that in mind, the Bhagavad Gita is relevant today for everybody. And most importantly, it is more relevant to politicians than anyone else. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says very clearly, if you look at the chapter 4, verse 2, Evam parampara praptim imam rajarshayo vidu sa kale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. So this knowledge, which he told first to Vivaswan, the sun god, was lost in time by all the kings. So when Krishna came on this planet, he revived this knowledge by instructing it to Arjun and through Arjun to all of us. So this Bhagavad Gita is relevant and becoming more relevant with the political challenges that we face today in our society. The challenges of leftism, communism, socialism, and also Islam is terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism. All these challenges which we face in society can be easily eradicated by the strength that we derive from Bhagavad Gita. So what are the benefits that a person gets, or a future politician, or a would-be politician, or a practicing politician can get from Bhagavad Gita is clarity of mind and purpose. See, we loka samastu sukhina bhavantu. Our philosophy is that we want everyone to be happy, every aspect of society to be happy. The other philosophies, communism, socialism, or leftism, Islamism, or to some extent other philosophies which are prevalent today in the society, they're highly communal and they benefit only the people who are part of those philosophies. But Bhagavad Gita gives us a philosophy that is based on soul. So anyone who practices it will do maximum good for maximum number of people connected to that person. And this philosophy, because it is built on karma, which is very different than other philosophies. Other philosophies deal with rights and entitlements. Bhagavad Gita also talks about rights and entitlements, but based on the actions. Because in this world, if we do not work, we cannot eat also. We cannot earn our livelihood. It's not possible. So there has to be an economic opportunity. So our actions we determine our financial well-being and also our consciousness also. Because we have to keep a consciousness which is clean so that we can, or clarity of purpose has to be there so that we can be the most productive person. So the relevance of Bhagavad Gita increases day by day, not only in our personal life, but also the kind of leaders that we create. If the leadership is demoniac, asuric, or a very terrorism-minded, then what is going to happen to the society? Society is going to perish. So society cannot function. So we need very good, honest, and leaders who want to do the maximum good to maximum people. And also they need to have philosophy and the policies that work for the maximum good of a maximum largest section of the society. Probably all the society, but the largest section of society. Now that consciousness and the purpose of functioning can only come from this one book, Bhagavad Gita. So there is another aspect given in Bhagavad Gita, which is very important, is the concept of time. So people do not understand that time, actually many people have quoted also, time is money. In USA, you sell time. That's what you do. You hire a consultant, you get paid by the hour. So time, we all understand how it works in America. But on another scale, there is an eternal time, which is cyclical in nature, and there is a nominal time or relative time, which is not cyclical in nature. Even though it is the sunrise and sunset is defined cycle. But still, when we have 8 working hours, what we can do in 8 working hours is very important. Now, for that 8-hour period to be maximum productive, we need to schedule, we need to plan our time accordingly so that we can actually derive maximum value during those 8 working hours. With the onset of pandemic and the change of the demography of North America, these 8 hours become very, very important. And all Americans have to think deeply now, because whether you want to waste your time in useless politics that doesn't help anyone or help a very small section of society, or you want to create a system which helps maximum people. The founders of this country, to some extent, I agree, to some extent, the economic model that we created have created maximum wealth for the largest group of people around the world. Today, our world trade is 22%. There must be something right and something dharmic. And now we need to, when 65, when Prabhupada came to this country, and he said one thing. When somebody asked him that as per Western civilization, somebody said, and Prabhupada said, where is the Western civilization? You know, we take milk from the cows and we send the cows to slaughterhouses. Where is the civilization, he said. Are we grateful? Are we grateful? Are we really intelligent that we are committing such gross sinful activities? And as purely from a Hindu point of view, I can say it as a sinful activity to kill animals in such large numbers for the purpose of food, when we have a beautiful land of Kansas, Missouri, South Dakota, North Dakota, and California, where we can grow ample amount of food. A lot of things need to be thought about it. You know, as a business community, for them, Krishna has a very simple message: Krishi Goraksha Vanijyam. He says that agriculture, protection of cows, and trade. These are 3 activities of the business community, which is very dharmic in nature. For the Kshatriyas or for the warriors, this country has produced some of the best soldiers on the planet. And how Bhagavad Gita helps them? Bhagavad Gita was spoken to a warrior. So we respect that culture. Arjun was the foremost warrior during his time. And he has inspired many other warriors in future. And as far as teachers go, you know, Bhagavad Gita advises purity of thought, purity of action, purity of purpose, and also a strong spiritual sadhana for the teachers. So Bhagavad Gita is a message for all sections of the society, including artists. And because the artists have to be employed by the kings or the rich, wealthy mercantile class and other people. So artists, for the actors, we all have to come to a platform where we make Bhagavad Gita as popular as possible in the American society, tell them about it, and let them read it. There are many places they can read it, which are available online. I will keep it short because I think it's already late for many of you. But the essential message is, from my perspective, is Bhagavad Gita is relevant, very much relevant today. So I'll open up the forum for all our members to speak and ask questions if you have it possible. With Americans for Hindus, we have made it a very clear point that we are going to focus on our scriptural importance of our ideas, our thoughts, our culture. We want to, without any inhibition, talk about in public. So I'll hand it over to other people who have entered here and who would like to hear. Before that, I'd like to ask Dr. Subroto. I think Dr. Subroto Gangopadhyay would like to speak something. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't volunteer, but I will speak something. Krishna is mysterious, is inscrutable. He's actually dark matter. So if you take the entire creation, entire galaxies, entire clusters, you have stars that account for 100% of the light, but 2% of matter. If you add all the neutrons, protons, electrons of which conventional matter is made, if you add plasma, and if you add all the gases, you still come to about 15% of matter. The rest is non-interactive matter, dark matter. That's Krishna, who shows the universe in his mouth. It is actually dark matter that holds the entire creation, the movements of the planet, the gravitation, the galaxies, their orbits. It also sustains the carbon-based civilization or life. Without dark matter and its effects of gravity, carbon-based life forms and their evolution would be impossible. So Krishna actually is the sustainer, though you cannot find evidence of dark matter. It hints out when you look at the matter on earth, you cannot really determine that. So Krishna, after creating the universe, gives us dharma to sustain that little piece. Dharma is to uphold, to behold, to support one that's falling, and to sustain through virtue. And this sustenance is not a moral absolutism. So when Rama comes in his time, he's different than Krishna than in his times. Krishna comes at a time when there is degradation of values and virtues. So accordingly, his conduct changes. It does not give any absolutisms in terms of moral strictures of doing or don't. But he actually frees us to uphold the creation itself, our earth itself, to sustain it, to sustain ourselves, our communities, our families, our truths, our virtues, through a very flexible exercise of conduct in sustaining dharma. So therefore, the hierarchies of dharma have to be understood from self, swadharma, to family, to community, to nation, to earth. And therefore, the politics has to be integrated into these hierarchies of dharmas that one ought to sustain. And in a way, the sustenance of many higher hierarchies of preservation, of support, are being threatened, as people have said so. And therefore, we have to look through and understand from the lowest to the highest layers that we need to support, because if we lose the fundamental or highest layers, the lower will fall automatically through. There's nothing you can do to support an individual, as you couldn't in Mahabharata, as you had to adopt techniques that were perhaps not completely overboard, as perhaps you had to slay your teachers, the patriarchs. So therefore, in times such as this, it is best not to be confused by the lower orders of dharma, but select the broader aspects and higher orders of dharma, as the universe is nothing but a projection of higher minds upon lower minds. The highest mind says be, and universe is. As lower orders of mind, we are also co-creators. We are creators of our family, of our environment. So we do have the same characteristics and the same responsibilities in our realms. So the challenge is for Indians, with this stupendous philosophy that unifies science, philosophy, conduct, and shows us a window of how to conduct ourselves, to really use the wisest dictates of our tradition to choose ourselves and not be afraid of battle. And that's all I have to say. I didn't intend to make any speech, but just a little comment. Thank you so much for speaking to all of us on this auspicious day, and look for Krishna the strategist.
That was a wonderful comments. And I think Sridharji has a question or a comment. Go ahead, Sridharji.
Thank you for...
And then we can probably tell everybody.
I'm sorry?
I said, go ahead and introduce yourself. You have a beautiful background over there. So where you call
Yeah, that's Japanese tea garden from San Francisco. But then I live in Cupertino. My name is Sridhar Puteri. I really am so thankful for being able to participate in this discussion, and so much of righteous, religious, dharmic people here talking about Bhagavad Gita on Janmashtami Day is really, really very good. The only concern I'm having a little bit is that nowhere we have touched the top, the person on the top of the ticket of the Republican contestant. There has been lots of concerns raised about the integrity, the truthfulness, and every single thing that we have talked today about this person. So, I mean, I would stop talking, but I would like to listen if we are going to touch any of those things at all. Because on the other side, evangelists just dropped out of the bandwagon from last time, but now Hindus have joined. Hindus are much more smarter and much more dharmic people. So how everything gels well with this person on the top of the ticket? That's what is my question. Thank you, sir.
All right, go ahead, Dityaji. You want to answer that, or you want
Yes.
somebody else to answer it?
No, I would like to answer that. So number one thing is actions. Like we discussed, that karma is pradhan. Karma is top. So the duty of the head of the country is to first protect the country. And I think that way he has done a fantastic job. Secondly, we have seen all the controversies being created by the left and the ultra left. So what are the alternatives we have in this country? You have Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not a right alternative. First of all, he's not a stable mind. And also there are a lot of issues concerned with the